of Straight Shoot News, episode 10 of our series, The Awakening. When we, the people, are over the target, collapse the whole system. I'm your host, man, Danny Renee. So in part 2, we're going to make the connections. We're going to go with the connections to the border, the banks, the cartels, communist Chinese, and Trump. He declares war on the cartels. So we're going to start off this segment here for a few minutes, and we're going to start with a piece that we didn't see on the mainstream media anywhere. It was not on there at all. But we got it from C-SPAN. It's from the border hearings the Republicans held down on the border. And basically, none of the Democrats showed up. But you really got to ask why. They don't even want to go to a committee and find out what's going on with our border. As we go through this segment today, like I said, make sure you get your friends to watch this. This may help you make some decisions for your family, because you're not going to be escaping if they pull this takedown off. We have you make some wise financial decisions by the time we're done. All right, roll that for starters. Let's take a look.
Chief Ortiz, are you aware that there was an explosive device found by Border Patrol agents on January 17th in an area called No Man's Land, and there's surveillance of who put it there? And guess what? It wasn't Americans, it was cartels. Are you aware of that?
Thank you, Congresswoman, and good to see you again. I will tell you that some of this information that I receive in a confidential skiff, so I'm going to be a little hesitant of briefing what I know and what I don't know with respect to some of those, an event like that.
I understand, Chief Ortiz, but I'm not going to be confidential because I think people deserve to know. Our Border Patrol agents should not be in those type of conditions where they are at risk of being blown to pieces by the cartels, who, by the way, are criminals, and they should be treated as such. As a matter of fact, I've co-sponsored legislation to declare war on the cartels because they are definitely declaring war on us, the American people, and our Border Patrol agents, and I've had enough of it. And I know Americans have had enough of it.
Nations have seized more than 11,000 pounds of fentanyl as they try to stop the flow of the deadly drug flowing into America, which has already killed tens of thousands of Americans. Joining me now with more is Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott. Your reaction to the border and its consequences. Tell me about the national security threat.
Americans should be frustrated. You should be fed up with their federal government right now to have a completely open southern border. We don't know who's coming across the border. We do know that 70,000 Americans lost their lives last year because of fentanyl. The border is controlled by the cartels, but not controlled by America. And so we got fentanyl killing people. I've met with moms that lost their kids. Why doesn't the Biden administration care about that? We know we have criminals come across. We know we have terrorists come across. We know who we caught. Who didn't we catch? So every part of your federal government now, the banks, the border, everything is falling apart. We have such a crappy president, and there's no accountability right now in federal government.
Well, I mean,
it makes me mad.
What about China? What is China and the Communist Party up to? Do you know that the apprehensions of Chinese nationals at the border is up 940%? Just over the last year? So are they sending people in so that they have people on board in case that there is a conflict? What's going on? They don't need to come through the southern border, but they are.
Look, we know the Communist Party of China hates our way of life, wants to destroy us. Whether it's a spy balloon, whether it's TikTok, whether it's the Chinese drones. Now we got Chinese coming across the southern border. We have to assume the worst, and the Biden administration sits there, and then we've got Xi meeting with Putin. And we got, Putin in Ukraine. I mean, the world is falling apart. America's government is falling apart. And we've got to be more active in making sure we get better people in government, because I'm fed up right now.
Well, where are the Republicans when it comes to Donald Trump about to get indicted?
In the United States, the instrument is a non-charitable purpose trust. For now, these trusts are available in Delaware, New Hampshire, South Dakota, and Wyoming. In the near future, you can expect them to spread across the nation. So what can be done?
Washington, D.C., late 2019. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists began receiving a trove of leaked documents. In all, nearly 12 million confidential financial files from firms that set up shell companies and offshore accounts for clients seeking to keep their wealth in the shadows. The leaked records are called the Pandora Papers, and they expose a financial system that shields the deals and assets of some of the world's richest and most powerful people.
We arrived at the conclusion pretty quickly that this was going to be bombshell material. Bank accounts of politicians that showed tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets that had never been publicly associated with these politicians or public figures before.
Over the past 2 years, journalists from 150 news organizations, including Frontline, have been examining the leaked documents. Emails, spreadsheets, contracts.
Hi, I'm Zach Dubinsky. I'm based in Toronto, Canada.
I'm from Bosnia.
From Chile.
I am based in Washington, D.C.
In an online meeting, Frontline producers Evan Williams and James Oliver joined other journalists working on the story to discuss where the reporting was leading.
There you go. Let's stop there for a minute and we'll give you a little bit more. Let's take a look at where we just went. We just went from explosives coming over our southern border. The Border Patrol chief has to keep it top secret. Why? He doesn't want to let the people know. What's the cover up here? Why can't we know who's smuggling these explosives over the border, where and what they intend to do with them they were going, where they were going? They're playing with our lives. They're playing with our national security. The violation of the Constitution is here with all this secrecy. It's not to catch anybody. It's not for we the people to start catching people. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, we're always slamming her. The Democrats think she's a joke. She's got a tinfoil hat on. If I had more time, I could show you more clips of what she's been doing at the hearings. She's going right at them, and she's going deep. And they're afraid of her. Okay? So, why did no Democrats show up for the hearings? The Pandora Papers? Have you heard of them? It's not any top secret thing. This came out. It's broadcast on mainstream media, but no one ever talks about it on mainstream media anymore. Why? All the pundits and talking heads being controlled, or maybe the owners of these corporations, these banks, these politicians, maybe the intelligence agency. Are they all involved here somewhere? Are they manipulated? We're going to show you a quick piece. I'll explain a little bit more to you of what they're not mentioned. But roll this. I want you to hear this.
Hundreds of journalists off around the globe. Within 12 or 24 hours, you have reporters from the Philippines to Israel to Brazil who are announcing that they've found offshore secretive deals related to finance ministers or their transport minister or billionaires from their country.
The leaked documents were leading directly to world leaders themselves.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, there we go.
With ICIJ reporter Will Fitzgibbon, we started examining these figures.
We're certainly seeing powerful people for various reasons. Maybe for tax purposes, maybe simply to hide the fact that they're multi-millionaires from their own citizens who often live in poverty.
In all, there were more than 300 public officials around the world, and 14 cases involving current leaders of countries.
Very quickly, we established a pattern, which was that hundreds and hundreds of politicians, from heads of state to ministers to diplomats, were active participants and beneficiaries of this offshore system. And I remember it dawning upon me quite suddenly, how on earth can we hope to reform the offshore system, as so many experts say needs to be done, if all of these politicians are benefiting from it?
At it is, I always thought this was an issue offshore. This was an issue somewhere else, in the Caribbean somewhere, in an island, perhaps. And what I'm finding and what I'm focusing on at this early stage is how the U.S. and specifically some states in the U.S. that you wouldn't expect are really helping to becoming go-to destinations.
The U.S. has long condemned offshore financial havens, but the document showed how people have been sheltering their money in states promising protection and secrecy that rival traditional offshore locations. This document shows a South Dakota trust for Colombian textile magnate Jose Duer Ambar. Ambar had a well-publicized past before setting up the trust. He had forfeited $20 million to the U.S. government as part of a settlement of a drug money laundering case. He died in 2020. The documents also show 3 trusts in South Dakota created for Ecuadorian bankers William and Roberto Isaias. The brothers had been convicted in absentia in Ecuador for embezzling government bailout money from their failed bank. The trusts owned several shell companies in the British Virgin Islands. One held a family inheritance valued at $5 to $10 million. Isaiah's conviction was later overturned amid controversy. Neither of the brothers responded to requests for comment about the trusts.
What we found so far is that roughly 20 high-profile politicians and industrialists from countries ranging from Ecuador to India who have been in trouble in their home countries for everything from human rights abuses to banking fraud, move their assets and wealth into the United States under the noses of investigators. We're talking about people who have been in all kinds of trouble, accused of some very bad things, who are using this system to hide their wealth, not only potentially from the governments and the taxing authorities in their home countries, but also from the victims in their home countries who might have a claim to some of that money.
2 companies are prominent in the leaked documents: Trident, which created Ambar's trust, and the South Dakota Trust Company, which was used by the Isaias brothers. Neither firm would answer questions about their clients, but said in statements they follow applicable regulations and perform extensive due diligence.
We realized that over the years, a whole industry of banking and trust leaders had pushed legislation at the state level to make South Dakota into this worldwide destination for foreign wealth. And they did this by passing a number of laws that really appeared incremental at the time, but they were huge in this industry.
The South Dakota Division of Banking said in a statement it routinely audits trust companies and that the firms are required to do intensive vetting with extra attention to foreign clients. But the leaked documents have heightened concerns about the secrecy of trusts and the limitations of existing state and federal oversight and regulation.
We already found evidence of people credibly accused of crimes and other wrongdoing, breaching the U.S. financial system. What about terrorists? What about drug traffickers? What about dictators or their associates? We just don't know, because though we had almost 12 million documents, that's just this little tiny glimpse into this thriving industry in the United States.
Over the past month, journalists from around the world have published hundreds of stories stemming from the leaked Pandora Papers.
We have never seen this many heads of state, ministers, politicians, and global billionaires in one location before. My interest as a journalist is to connect these stories to contemporary issues in our society and the ills of our society. And many experts say that the secret financial system is a part of that, and they're the kind of stories I'm hoping that we can tell.
In the United States, the instrument is a non-charitable purpose trust. For now, these trusts are available in Delaware, New Hampshire, South Dakota, and Wyoming. In the near future, you can expect them to spread across the nation.
Let's take that apart for you. Did that wake you up? Like I said, this is no secret. This is no rabbit hole. This is no tinfoil hat conspiracy. Within 24 hours, 100 reporters from around the world found 14 leaders of countries and hundreds of politicians involved in these scams and setups. Okay. Now think about this. The US and the states are now shelters for all this. I'll give you a little heads up. We'll give you the link to the video, but in this video, as you can tell, it was done by Frontline News. These are one of the talking heads of the media. They make a direct connection. They go right for Russia. Go for Putin. Putin, wow. He's right in the middle of all this. He and this lady who they claim has a child with him, she's all set up, showing, it's prime property in the U.S. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And then they make a connection to the King of Jordan, too. But they don't mention certain things. So let's get into some of that. We have Amber, the drug laundering dealer, drug pusher, South America, pays the fine, and then they kill him. He's cartel leader, no doubt about it. You've got the brothers from Ecuador. What do you think they're pushing into this country? And who do you think's letting them push it? Who do you think is letting them push these drugs into our country? And if we, for the matter of time, we cut Marjorie Taylor Greene's shot, but she went right into the fentanyl issue and everything else. Who do you think armed a lot of these people? Remember good old Eric Holder under Obama? The Fast and Furious. They fed all these automatic weapons into Mexico. And where did those go? So, well, like I said, we'll give you the link, but they're not going to focus on real criminals. So now we have the whole industry here. High-profile people that are doing bad things, hiding their money into this new banking and trust industry in the U.S. They're breaching the financial situation. I mean, we're talking about things here. They're stuffing their money in our banks. And now remember, the banks are collapsing. And as we go on, make sure you watch the next few clips because they're going to explain quite a bit to you. You know, these are crimes against humanity. But the ones that she mentioned in that video, which is why we keep playing that clip for you, because you want you to remember these states: New Hampshire, Delaware. Oh, Senator Joe Biden from Delaware. When the vice president lives in Delaware. President lives in Delaware. South Dakota and Wyoming. Wyoming. Who is that lovely woman? Dick Cheney, former vice president, his daughter. Liz Cheney, who just got voted out by a landslide. The woman from the J6 committee. Why was she, a Republican, going after Trump so hard? See, there's a whole bunch of dots here that need to be connected that we can protect. Now, let's take another look here. We're going to give you another clip. This comes from New Hampshire and a Boston connection to it, Boston, Massachusetts. Roll this one.
In the Pandora Papers documentary, they went looking for these giant corporations to try and get an inside footing into some of these corporations and make contact with them. And they were going to these little Scottish Highland village where two 78-year-old people were the registered agent. I mean, this is just classic Pandora Papers.
How about this? And people, listen to this. When I gave my evidence to the minority leader for the Ways and Means Committee investigating the Pandora Papers, what I was told was the first 5 businesses that they investigated turned out to be empty offices in buildings. Just like this. Not a desk, not a pencil. You know what they had? A nameplate. This CT Systems Corporation they have a nameplate and a marker board on the door. You know what that marker board is for? If you happen to show up, you take a crayon and you write the fact on the door that you showed up, just in case they want to know who's stopping by.
Yeah, it should remind people that a lot of these registered agents are very dodgy because there's a lot of really dodgy, crappy LLC companies out there made by mom and pop people and people avoiding tax. This is not some mom and pop outfit. This is a gigantic multi-billion-dollar Boston private banking and trust. This is a private bank.
That is part of as Silicon Valley Bank. They are one and the same. This is an asset. It's Silicon Valley Bank Group. This is the group. This in one day, this goes from good standing to bad standing. Now think about this. Even the agent, are you ready? The agent is an LLC. So if you happen to grab the agent, which you're gonna better hope you have a search warrant, he's an LLC, and they're gone. So there's levels of not just protection, of deception. That's what this is. They are hiding their money. Why are they hiding their money? Because it was drug money and they're forced to hide it. Or it's corrupt politicians. Trust me, they didn't build this network without the help of the politicians. Who gives them banking license? Who gives them casino license? Who gives them license to own treatment centers? It is the protection network that gives them credibility, gives them the mechanism to be able to hide their money. That's what we're seeing. This is going on massively across the country. So think about this. Is there a situation if the cartel money suddenly pulls out of certain banks? You're right, there are. But how much of this money is interwoven into these businesses that own? How many of these banks are really cartel banks?
Briefly, did you read the article from MSN which really points out that this is the most ridiculous level of money withdrawal? It was all done literally at once. Literally at once. They make the point in the MSN article that they've never seen so much money pulled so fast. This is unique. Just a final comment on that.
I did see that. And that's what I'm telling you. It was an event sparked, not an economic spark. It wasn't the spread of interest rates. It was an event. So, and what no one's telling you is what was the event. And think about this, to be on the same page, meaning it was singular. I believe there was just a few, and it was cartel money that moved suddenly, which tells me there could be an investigation. Maybe it is Trump. Maybe they are getting these Pandora Papers out. I can tell you, I believe Congress is tipping these people off. Think about this. Just as those cartels knew to sell auto fare, just as they knew to grant a state recovery, somebody tipped off Silicon Valley Bank and the cartel and said, they're on you. What we know is we just showed a direct pipeline from the state of New Hampshire to the state of California to that bank with the cartel. Now you tell me, what's the chances? I'm a money guy. You know what the odds are? It can't happen unless it is the cartel.
As we know in the Pandora Papers, the drug money launderers set up limited liability companies and trust companies that look just like this dodgy little shithole office that can't even afford more than 2.5 in their address, meaning they share the office with someone else. I mean, come on. Silicon Valley Bank is a drug money laundering bank with strong ties to Israel. It was doing very well as it exclaimed its commitment to climate change and equity and inclusion and all the other Davos central banker buzzwords. Reminds me of this guy.
Okay, the guy you see next to me is the most generous billionaire in the world, and I found him.
Hi, my name is Sam, and this is my story.
Global warming,
It's one of the biggest problems that we have to tackle together as a world.
COVID-19 preparedness,
We have to be ready for the next pandemic.
neglected tropical diseases,
More than 1 billion people suffer from them. We have to eliminate these diseases.
and of course, animal welfare.
Animals deserve to live just like we do. It's also why I'm vegan.
It was named top bank for 5 years running and it collapsed overnight. It doesn't happen anywhere, anytime, ever. It collapsed because the large account managers realized that the Mike Gill revelations and a congressional inquiry was coming, and they jumped ship immediately, crashing the bank.
Good. Over the target, collapsed the whole system. You understand the title now? You can follow Mike Gill on Facebook. I suggest you do. I became a little bit familiar with him years ago. I wasn't completely sure what he was up to, but I caught on more and more. But the first time I seen it, I was riding on my bike through New Hampshire on the main road near a shopping center. And his video is really good. You need to watch what he's done. He hasn't stopped. And he's a big financial guy who they went after. And he did. He rented billboards, had signs going up. And I was wondering if when he first saw it, what's he talking? He was showing how all the connections in New Hampshire, which goes back to what the woman said in the Frontline video about how politicians in states become involved in this bank and trust, and they pass laws, and they got frontmen and musicians and politicians. Well, Mike Gill put them all together in the state of New Hampshire. And now, instead of having to go to Joe Biden's state, Delaware, where if you ever had a tax accountant, you wanted to start a business, good tax accountant will tell you, oh, Delaware is a prime place to start. So start one, start your corporation, come up with your LLC, your LLP, so you're not liable for anything. And they'll tell you go to Delaware. But now it appears we have a great safe haven in the state of New Hampshire. You know, live free or die. Come on, people, let's start getting it together up there. Gil, I mean, he went after the governor, Sununu. He went after everybody. It's worth watching. We'll try to give you some links to his clips so you can see for yourself. So the weird part, too, is how the Frontline mainstream media company went after South Dakota. Really didn't mention too many of the other ones except for that one little clip we kept showing. There's a reason for that. It's mainstream media and Frontline. Are they compromised? Oh, yes, they are. So now let's follow it to today. SVB bank collapse. Well, that's been big. That's some pretty big news, hasn't it? All right. Think about that. Joe Biden and Teal. They told you right there. It was headlines. An extraordinary amount of money was pulled out of these banks. Why isn't this being reported in the news? How come none of this we're being told? This is why we're telling you here. That's why we're urging you to show all your friends this. Especially if you have money. I don't have any money, so wherever this goes, I'm just going to hang on to a little bit I got and buckle down. But some of you people who've been working hard, putting money together for kids' college fund or whatever, vacation home, a great retirement, they're coming for it. There's a confiscation of wealth that's coming right now. All right? So somebody tipped them off. So whoever tipped these people off, or tipping these people off, You see the 3 executives in SVB that took their money out before that bank collapsed? Watch how many more. See if she was being told. And then look, the icing on the cake. It's little Bernie Madoff. See him. And there's Virgin Island haven there. We just ripped off all the investors. They're making it up. No tinfoil hat. No deep rabbit hole here. It's been broadcasting on the news. And now the banks are being taken over. Where are the banks getting their money? How deep are the drug cartels into our banking system? How deep are they into these different states? This is where the concern is. This is the national security being put at risk. Right here. Everything's being exposed. Is Congress getting close? Has anybody even mentioned the Pandora Papers at all? No, I haven't seen much on it at all. But what we are hearing is they're going to indict Trump.
Fentanyl, heroin, meth, and other lethal drugs are pouring across our wide open border, stealing hundreds of thousands of beautiful American lives, and it's happening like never before in our history. Children are being left without parents, families are being ripped apart, communities are being decimated. Our neighbors and fellow citizens are having their entire worlds destroyed like nobody thought possible. Our country is being poisoned from within by the drugs and by all of the other crime that's taking place. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels. In this war, Joe Biden has sided against the United States and with the cartels. They are making more money than they've ever made before, times 10. There's never been anything like it. They're major companies. They're bigger than even some of our biggest companies. Biden's open border policies are a deadly betrayal of our nation. When I am president, it will be the policy of the United States to take down the cartels, just as we took down ISIS and the ISIS caliphate, and just as, unlike the situation we're in today, we had a very strong border, the strongest border, in fact, in the history of our country, and drugs were at a low of 45 years. There's been nothing like what we did just 2 years ago. We will show no mercy on the cartels. Every day, drug traffickers are using the waters of our region to ship their lethal poisons to America, killing so many of our people and ruining families. In addition to restoring strong border security, I will deploy all necessary military assets, including the U.S. Navy, to impose the full naval embargo on the cartels. I did that before, and it worked. What we did was incredible. We will guarantee that the waters of the Western Hemisphere are not used to traffic illicit drugs to our country. Furthermore, I will order the Department of Defense to make appropriate use of special forces, cyber warfare, and other overt and covert actions to inflict maximum damage on cartel leadership, infrastructure, and operations. I will designate the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We will sever their access to global financial systems. I will also work to forge an unprecedented partnership with neighboring governments in our region, just like I did in Mexico. And remember, in Mexico alone, an estimated 100,000 civilians have been tragically murdered or gone missing at the hands of these cartels. The Mexican government, run by a very fine man, the president, is really working hard, but it's not working out. These cartels are vicious and they're violent, and they have Mexico for now stymied. Well, we have to help Mexico, and we have to stymie the cartels. Either we will get the full cooperation of other governments to stop this menace, or we will expose every bribe, every kickback, every payoff, and every bit of corruption that is allowing the cartels to preserve their brutal reign, and it is indeed brutal. Finally, as I have said before, I will ask Congress to pass legislation ensuring that drug smugglers and human traffickers receive the death penalty. The drug cartels and their allies in the Biden administration have the blood of countless millions on their hands. Millions and millions of families and people are being destroyed. When I'm back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. We did it once, and we did it better than anybody else. There's never been a better border than we had just 2 years ago. It was strong, it was powerful, and it was respected all over the world. And now we're laughed at all over the world. And we're not going to let that happen much longer. We have to take over, we have to be tough, we have to be smart, we have to be fair. But if we don't do something immediately, our country is gone.
Do you have any comment about Trump potentially being indicted on Tuesday?
Well, it's very odd that this would come out just the very next day after I revealed bank records, which showed that the Biden family, the president in particular, hasn't been truthful with respect to his family receiving payments directly from the Chinese Communist Party. So it almost looks like it's an effort to detract. But at the very least, it's another example of two-tier system of justice. Look, we've been looking into these classified documents. We saw the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago for one set of supposedly mishandled classified documents, but yet Joe Biden's had at least 5 different locations of mishandled classified documents, and they give him days and days to go in and clean up with his attorneys. So this looks to me like it's another example of a two-tier system of justice at the DOJ.
So, Congressman, let's go through some of those bank records. This is really the first batch of bank records you were able to get because they've been stonewalling you. Are there more?
There are many more, Maria. This is one deal. We think there are as many as 11 more deals. Now, we don't know what those deals are. What the Bidens, in the beginning, the White House denied having any knowledge or the fact that their family was involved in any sort of way, shape, or form with the CCP, but now we have bank records that reveal otherwise. We don't know what the Bidens did in return for this money. The lawyer said that it was seed capital for a business. We haven't been able to find a business, Maria. We're going to have an opportunity to ask people about that were closely aligned with the Biden family. We've talked to them privately. I'm not going to reveal what they say privately, but very soon they'll either be talking to everyone in the form of a deposition or even better in a committee hearing. But right now it looks like the Biden family just pocketed this money. This is one deal. We have 11 more to go, and I'm pretty confident we'll be getting more bank records in very soon.
Look at this. We have the CIA sources for their part reminded us that the trial Sonora cartel boss, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, stated in court the COMEX helped under $150 million in cartel money for the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. It only appears that those who are at the trial are aware of this CIA source note. Let that sink in. Now listen, everyone thinks that when they hit each other, party. This is the political pendulum. It's swinging. All right? But there's everybody involved. Whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, I guess the Constitution Party. I told you in part 1, this is going to affect your life. You can't ignore what just happened. Like I said, if you put money aside, you did this, you did that, they're coming for everything. They're going to raise your taxes so high, they're going to come after everything you own. Because communists do not allow ownership of everything. This is where we're at. This is all well planned out. Think about this. The banks, the Pandora Papers. Trump comes out. That video, I believe, was from 12 days ago now. So within a matter of 2 weeks, Trump comes out, declares war on the cartels, starts to expose everybody involved with bribes and kickbacks. Joe's bribes and kickbacks come out. All right, they finally got him. Comer said they finally got the records. So you've got to ask yourself, stop playing party and stop buying into the division, because there's more that we have to ask ourselves too here. They go after Trump, they're going after him hard. This guy's indicting him. I think I said this in part one. They're indicting him on misdemeanor. He's trying to pump up to a felony because the misdemeanor is already expired in the statute of limitations. There's nothing there. Okay. On TV, they're telling you this guy wants to run for governor. He's got political ambitions, blah, blah. He said this and that. No. This guy's compromised. New York's compromised. In fact, grand jury turns out he hands down an indictment against Trump. They're compromised. But let's go a little further. What did Mike say? Mike Gill say? Like I said, hook up with him on Facebook. You'll, it's quite the awakening. Maybe Trump has these papers. Maybe Trump's got the leverage to release it. Why did they raid Mar-a-Lago in the manner they did when Trump was cooperating with them? They wanted documents. They didn't want cooperation because they're afraid of something that Trump had there that they hide. Was it the Pandora Papers? Why is the media talking about the Pandora Papers? At first, when they were released in 2019, hundreds of reporters from all over the world were hot and heavy to find out what was going on. And all of a sudden, we hear nothing. Nothing about the Pandora Papers. There's a lot of dots here we're trying to connect for you. Because this isn't only an awakening, this is the great awakening. Trump said it best. If we don't get strong, get tough, we'll lose our country. And when we lose our country, we lose this. This is all that's standing in the way of tyranny and control over your everyday life. So you got to ask who these people are in government. They're carrying out these orders without question. There's a lot of whistleblowers. Like Comer said, a lot of whistleblowers are coming forward. There's a lot of people that know a lot, and they're trying to stifle it. They're trying to stifle it from coming out. So what I got to understand here is we have a war going on for everything we hold dear. And even the people that don't understand how important this is, you've got to explain it to them. Maybe they'll understand the banking bank. Maybe they'll understand another segment of, being the border crossings, explosives coming over the border. I didn't hear that on mainstream news. We're hearing about Chinese nationals. So who really was it? The cartels? We don't know who it was because the Border Patrol, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, when she asked him, he said he can't tell you. It's top secret. Why is this all top secret? We, the people, want transparency, and we want it now. With that being said, please share this video. It's only the tip of the iceberg. We're trying to give you a general shot right through it all, how it all connects. And we'll try to give you some video links on our posts on our YouTube, Rumble, and I think we'll get some up on BitChute. With that being said, I hope you understand how we started our series, The Awakening. I hope you enjoyed your awakening. Your family's future maybe depend on it. I think it does. With that, good night.